Hi, I'm Nicholeen Peck, and I teach parenting all over the world through the lens of the principle self-government. What's that? And what's the best parenting style? In this video, we're talking about what is the best parenting style. There are so many different styles of parenting. We're going to briefly talk about those in this video and then talk about what style is proven to be best. Just a little bit about me. I'm the mother of 4, but all of my children have reached adulthood now, and so I'm an empty nester. I'm actually now a grandmother, so that's kind of a fun thing. But for years I did therapeutic treatment care for troubled teens. Now these were children that weren't my 4 biological children, and these troubled teens were all between the ages of 12 and 18, and they came into my home to get treatment to help them with a variety of things related to their behaviors, but also their relationships, and to just help them prepare for a good path in life. A number of years after that, the BBC asked me to be on a documentary called The World's Strictest Parents. And I guess we can call it a documentary because the BBC called it a documentary, but let's be serious. It was a reality TV show. They brought 2 17-year-olds to stay in my home for 8 days. They filmed it, and it was so calm, and the teens were so changed by the end of the program that that episode became their most watched episode that they ever had. At least that's what they told me. And if you want to see some of that episode, there are reaction videos to that episode as well as many other things here on this channel. So be sure to subscribe so that you don't miss out on those types of things. But years ago, after that program, I was asked if I would write a book. Now, I've written 11 parenting books so far, but this is the main one. This was the first one, called Parenting a House United. And this book was all about teaching families how to create an environment where the parents and children could all be self-governing. So what is self-government? Well, self-government is actually a principle of freedom. So every free society had some self-government to one degree or another, and however much self-government you have can determine how much freedom you actually have in your society. The term self-government means being able to determine the cause and effect of any given situation and possessing a knowledge of your own behaviors so that you can control them. So when it comes to a government, the government understands cause and effect, they understand principles, they understand the people, and then they understand the government, what the role of the government should be, what the role of the people should be, and they keep all of that in the right place. So in a family, we understand who we are to each other in the family and how the family is supposed to run in order for each person to have the most amount of freedom and positive outcomes because of the family dynamic. So when a person has self-government, that means they understand themselves, how they tick, what they do, and they actually plan for future success. And they analyze how they're doing as they go through life and see where they can course correct over time. That's what it means to have self-government. Now, I teach self-government, which should show you that the self-government type of parenting is obviously what I think is best. However, how does the self-government type of parenting compare with other styles of parenting? Let's talk about that. So there are many styles of parenting. In fact, after I wrote the book Parenting a House United, a little while later I ended up writing this book based off a presentation that I often give. And this book is called Popular Parenting Methods. What it does is it talks about 3 different types of parenting, so 3 styles of parenting, and the connections that those parenting styles have to the history of our society. So basically, where we're at now, why we're at where we are with parenting, what is missing, what is it that we have lost, and how parents end up shifting between these styles of parenting because they don't know how to get to a place where heart change can really happen for them and their children. What do parents want? They want a good connection with their children, they want a good bond, they want to be able to talk about anything. Well, when they do this, they need to have good communication about the daily things. If you want your child to listen to you about how to to live their future life or what leads to ultimate happiness, they're going to need to know that they can trust you when it comes time to talk about the chores and making the bed and clearing the dishes after dinner. They're all interconnected. We're practicing our communications with our children all the way along. So there is a way to raise our children by rod and staff without having to be aggressive and without having to hit them and create power struggles in the home. So let's talk about that, because so many people are just swinging back and forth wondering, where is the happy medium? Where is the place that I need to find myself? So the answer for good parenting is actually a traditional, strict type of parenting approach. And when I say strict, I don't mean militant or aggressive, so let's be very clear about that. I mean principled. A person whose principles match their practice, okay? So they're doing what they believe. Many people, it's like this. They believe, but they don't know how to do it. Or they do a whole bunch of stuff, but it doesn't match what they believe. Okay, let's get that matching. That's a traditional, strict parenting approach. And that is an assertive parenting approach, because you're saying, I believe this. These are my principles. And then these are my skills. And I'm going to make sure they stay aligned. That means you have to keep tabs on what you're doing and why. And this actually creates some very good, assertive, consistent parenting. So what does that look like then, if that's really the best? And that's the answer. It looks like self-government parenting. If you really want to have an assertive plan for yourself, maybe you weren't raised with parents that were assertive, they were a little reactive, maybe they were bullies, maybe they were emotionally manipulating you, or maybe they were hands-off and you know that you had some hard knocks because of that. What can you do now? Start by reading this book. Actually, this is the best thing to begin with, because you're going to now learn all the different types of parenting styles and be able to see where you fall into certain traps. There's also a whole section in this book about spanking, in the new version of the book, by the way, which is probably not going to have this cover. The new version comes out really soon. I'm excited for that. This version is fantastic, but hopefully you're going to be seeing this when we already have a new version for you. Anyway, so popular parenting methods, start there, learn about the different styles so you can make a deliberate plan for how you want to parent and you don't fall into old habits or your parents' old habits. And then start training your children on skills. You learn skills of self-government, they learn skills of self-government. There is a video that will teach you so much more about this self-government approach to parenting, and I highly recommend that you go to that video now. The video is called The Not So Known Secret for Parenting Success. Click on that video now. I'll see you there.